Chrono Trigger heavily relies on party synergy. Each of the game's 7 characters has unique and unchangeable techniques. Some excel at dealing damage, some at healing, and some by providing incredible support. But on today's episode of I Play a Classic RPG with Stupid Restrictions, I decided to tackle Chrono Trigger with only Crono. In terms of the rules, Crono is the only one who can use any actions, but if Crono becomes available for some unpredictable story-related reason, we can use our other characters. But we must get him back in the party as quickly as possible with no detours. My face looks kind of shiny. Okay, whatever, it's too late. And if Crono is available, the other party members must remain in their initial equipment so they die as quickly as possible. And while I hate to bring this up at the beginning of the video, a federal judge has mandated that you hit the subscribe button. And I only say that because whenever I ask, you guys always pull through. And also it's free, and also it really helps my channel. And also, how did you end up in legal trouble? Well, it's a long story, but it starts with a red-headed teenager named Crono. We start the game by naming our silent protagonist Goku. We also help our mother, who has retrograde amnesia, remember our bestie's name. It is and has always been Bulma. We then head to the Millennial Fair, purchase a new iron sword and some armor, bump into this careless blonde android whom we name 18, and we follow her into an experimental teleporter that sends us back in time. And then I head into Guardia Forest. Here, this shaking bush contains a nice surprise, a free shelter. These items restore HP and MP, but only at save points or on the world map, and by entering and re-exiting this area, we can farm this resource an unlimited number of times. I get about 20 before I head into the castle, and then I watch 18 get destroyed by a continuity error. And this is truly where the challenge starts. We head to the church where her grandmother has been kidnapped, and things get tedious. The Nagaets in the church are extremely physically defensive. The game clearly intends for you to use Bulma's fire spells to kill them, but we don't have that option. So instead, I just wait for them to group up. That way, I can hit several of them at the same time with a cyclone tech. Many techs in this game have area-based effects and can hit enemies within a specific path, but for this solo run, we only have 2. Cyclone, which hits enemies in a circular area, and another technique, which will be very important later. And after we defeat all the Nagaets, a frog saves us from an errant pink lady, and we name him Piccolo. I step outside to heal with one of my shelters, and then I head back in. I next grab the Nagaet bromide from this room to get a reward later. This leads to a battle with 3 henches, who begin the battle grouped up so I can obliterate them all at the same time with cyclone attacks. But playtime is over because we now move on to the first boss, Yakra. His most salient mechanic is a counterattack that hits the entire party. However, if he's close enough to the character who hits him, he simply won't use it. So I use up all of my MP on cyclones. I heal up with tonics when my HP gets low, and then I switch over to physical attacks. And I finish him off with a final critical hit before he can even kill Piccolo. And with this, we've saved 18's grandmother, and she returns into existence. So we bring her back into the present and provide a personal escort back to the castle. And our reward for our service? Jail. No, really, they convict us of kidnapping and throw us in jail. But Goku is innocent, so since the justice system has failed him, Goku takes matters into his own hands. He escapes from jail, and unfortunately, he cripples several guards he meets on the way out. I make sure to parkour for this load sword before I leave, and then we fight the boss of this section, the Dragon Tank. And this boss has some interesting mechanics. Goku's Cyclone can hit all 3 parts, but if you hit the body or the wheels, his head will immediately heal off a ton of damage to the entire apparatus. This means our only choice is to destroy the head first and then work on the rest. But even then, the head still intermittently restores the rest of the tank, making this battle drag on a bit. And once the head goes down, that not only removes a bunch of healing, but also a good deal of the tank's attack damage. And even better, cyclone attacks are now viable and can hit both the wheels and the body for a good amount of damage. So the wheels go down first, and then the body follows, and we make our escape. With the castle guards in a hot pursuit, our only choice is to escape through another time gate. This one leads us to the far future, year 2023. And in order to get back through our time, we have to find another time gate. So we head all the way across a bunch of ruins, escaping from every battle as we traverse them, and then we reach some buildings that actually have people in them. And at this point, Goku gets mistaken for a DoorDasher, but we're low on cash. So we accept their delivery request and head into the basement to pick up our goods. Unfortunately, the Guardian robot and his bits viciously attack us. Attacking the Guardian himself will initially lead to a vicious counterattack, so I need to take out the bits first, and once I do that, the main body becomes vulnerable. I'm able to use Cyclone 5 times on him before he revives the 2 bits, and the cycle begins anew. This time, though, the bits are able to take down Bulma before they die, and then another 3 Cyclones runs me out of magic points, forcing me to use less damaging physical attacks. But I make a big mistake here. As the Guardian is reviving its bits, I lock in a physical attack just a little too late, activating the enemy party's Delta attack. That takes out 18 and leaves Goku with just 4 HP. Fortunately, I'm able to use a mid-tonic before it can kill me, and I go after the bits again. They both go down after a few attacks, and it takes just 4 more to short-circuit this fiend. And of course, the robot was only guarding a storehouse full of rotten food, so our DoorDash is unsuccessful. But the DoorDasher who came before us is there holding a seed. So after we teach the residents of this sad metallic city what agriculture is, we head to the next set of ruins where there is somehow a shiny new car. And another shiny car who is actually a man named Johnny who wants to race us in the first shiny new car. And I lose the race the first time, but the second time I beat him. And in case you've ever had an issue with this race, the key is to save a nitro boost and use it to speed past Johnny at the very end of the race. I mean, that's not how I do it, but do as I say and not as I do, okay? And after traversing this hellscape, we head into Protodome. There, we recruit the game's first and only robot, Robo. But that name is stupid, so I call him 16. And after Bulma fixes him, we bring him into the factory to f*** shit up. Not that he's actually gonna do that, because after we barrel through all the puzzles, he gets wrecked by his robot comrades. Which brings us to our next boss fight with the R6Y series. And these 6 robots show exactly why Goku is the perfect character for this challenge. Right now, Goku has 2 area of effect attacks, Cyclone and Slash. Cyclone hits enemies in a circle, and Slash hits enemies in a line. And wouldn't you know it, 3 robots can be hit by 1 Cyclone, which does a ton of damage. I do use Slash a couple times because I'm very foolish and hoped it would hit more than 2. But ultimately, I go back to Cyclone and I'm able to take down the back 3 before I even heal once. And the remaining 2 in front are expediently taken out by physical attacks. So we unlock the door to the time gate and head on in. And because we have 4 party members, we are not transported back to the present. Instead, we end up in the end of time. And here, Goku gets a new toy. By heading into Specchio's room, dashing around it 3 times, and then groveling, we convince Specchio to grant us some thunder magic. And while I do try to fight him for the rewards, it's quickly obvious that that's not going to work, so I seek out a more suitable opponent back in the present, specifically the Heckran. The Heckran, believe it or not, is a big problem. He can only be damaged by magic, and Goku has 1 spell, but that's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is his counterattack, which does a ton of damage. However, he frequently takes smoke breaks when he doesn't counterattack, and that's our time to strike. Initially, his breaks are pretty tame, and he casts moderately strong water spells. But not for long, because once he hits a certain HP threshold, he casts Cyclone twice, followed by his Yes Indeed physical attack. And even worse, he's fast. That means that if I'm not quick with my healing, I'll get completely washed up. And that's exactly what happens the first time I fight, meaning I die. And the second time too, I get overwhelmed. And the third and the fourth. But on try number 5, I realized that there's a beautiful rhythm to this battle. Once 18 and Bulma are dead, each counterattack break has time for 1 lightning strike. And then I need to heal after the first Cyclone. This will allow me to survive the second Cyclone and the Yes Indeed physical attack, get in 1 more lightning strike, and then counterattack time begins again. This gives me time to restore my health to full and repeat the cycle. And eventually this Heckran goes to hell, revealing that the purple-haired princess we've been searching for is in another castle. But we know exactly where this castle is. Or should I say when? Or should I say both when and where?
What the f*** is going on in here on this day?
It's in the year 600 AD, so we head back there. And our first destination is Zenan Bridge, where we are for some reason tasked with getting food for the troops. So we head back to Guardia Castle, get some jerky, and bring it back. And as a reward, the entire army takes an eternal nap, and they force us to fight the monsters on the bridge for them, which are actually them, which is kind of weird. And our opponent at the far end of the bridge is Zombor. The top half of Zombor will absorb strength from the bottom, so our goal for this fight is to destroy his bottom half first. On its death, though, it releases a powerful blast, but that blast is not strong enough to endanger Goku. And the top half, while not incredibly threatening, steals Goku's MP as the battle ends, which is kind of a weird choice for this game because you can just go to any inn nearby and restore all of your MP. But anyway, before we can pursue the purple-haired menace, we need to find a special sword, the Masamune, Masamune, and the flare that goes along with it, the hero badge. So we head into the Denadora Mountains to look for it, and this area provides a unique challenge, the Hammer Goblins. They have extremely high defense, and the normal way to deal with them is to hit them with fire, destroying their hammers and leaving them pretty weak. But without Bulma, we can't do that. So we run away from as many as we can and take out the ones we're forced to fight slowly and safely. And once that's done, we finally find our magic sword and its two guardians, Masa and Mune. In their first phase, they have a nasty X-Strike counterattack, but once one is defeated, the other retreats. But it's their combined form that poses a threat. Their regular physical attack is pretty weak, but they do have a nasty wind attack. Fortunately, Masamune's tornado energy can be removed with a slash attack from Goku, but unfortunately that means timing really matters. If I attack while he's storing tornado energy, he attacks back with a slash attack, putting more pressure on my team. Or on Goku, I guess. But that's not even my worst problem, because while this battle seems manageable, I accidentally have Bulma attack with her gun, meaning I have to reset. But it's been the end of a long stream, and I'm fucking frustrated, so I take a break and head to bed. But I wake up the next day ready to sock it to him, even though they don't wear socks.
Oh, Jesus. Gross.
The first phase goes perfectly adequately, and the big boy then shows his face. Goku's thunder attacks are pretty weak, so physical attacks seem to be the way to go. No big problems until 18 and Bulma are dead though, since they act as meat shields. Once they are though, I slash him to get rid of the tornado energy, and I heal at regular intervals, and he eventually goes down, yielding the broken blade of the Masamune. But who should have the hilt but Piccolo? And since he won't need it, since he spends most of his time on the bench, he gives it to us to be repaired. But to repair it, we need Big Red Rock. And Big Red Rock is only available in the distant past. 65 million years in the past to be specific. So after destroying some stray Namekians and recruiting Ayla, whom we name Videl, we participate in a soup drinking contest to win the stone from her. But unfortunately, even though we win, our crap gets stolen by Namekians, so we have to head to their lair to get it back. Before I do that though, I head to the jungle to grab some feathers, fangs, horns, and feathers, and I defeat the Nu, who gives the third eye accessory. Nus are kind of funny. They either do 1 damage or reduce your HP to 1, meaning one Nu can never kill you, but a group of them can, and we'll come back to that a little bit later. The Nu goes down, I grab a bunch of stuff, and I bring my spoils back to the trading tent. I trade 3 fangs and 3 horns for the flint edge, 3 feathers and 3 fangs for the ruby vest, and 3 horns and 3 feathers for the rock helm. The ruby vest in particular is very important because it reduces fire damage by half. That will be extremely useful in a future boss fight. So we head through the Reptite lair, and while I don't die here, this place is pretty annoying. In particular, the Megasaur. Lightning causes it to become shocked, which makes it take more damage. But it eventually recovers from it, and it can do a ton of fire damage. You can get 2 attacks in usually before that status wears off. But again, no huge problems here. I run from most of the battles anyway. But there is a boss in this section, Nizbel. Nizbel, like most of the enemies here, is weakened by thunder attacks. However, he can release the electric energy he gets struck with. That'll do massive damage and renew his defenses. Fortunately though, this does only about 60% projected damage to Goku because he resists the lightning element, so he's able to disable him anew with more shocky shocks. I use the lightning spell followed by spin cut to deal a ton of damage to him, so without too much difficulty, we make him extinct. And with that, the leader of the Namek, Azela, returns our gate key, and we head back to Melchior's hut to repair our sword. After giving Piccolo back the Masamune, it's time to fight the purple-haired menace. So we slash a passageway through the mountains and we head on through. And once we reach the castle, things get annoying. After a bit of exploration, we're greeted by Ozzy, who introduces us to our first set of 6 enemies. And since they're all spread out, they need to be beaten one at a time, excruciatingly slowly. But once we're through it, I skip as many battles as I can, and I head into Fight Slash. At the battle's start, he attacks one character at a time, and he initially focuses his attacks on Goku. And I see that in this phase he can't do much to threaten me, but once his health is half depleted, he takes out his sword and oddly gets a bit easier. He casts the slash attack, which does a small amount of damage to multiple party members, and his attacks always hit Goku, but they do less than his single attacks did in the last battle. And oddly, even with my other characters dead, he doesn't really adjust his strategy at all. Well, until the end of the battle anyway, when he gets caught on Piccolo's corpse. It looks like he's trying to approach us, but he's completely blocked and literally does nothing for a good long while. But once his health gets super low, slow, he starts countering with a Yes Indeed attack, which does around 100 damage, a 3-hit kill. But healing after each second counter makes this completely safe, and he very quickly is taken out. And on his death, he yields an amazing weapon, the Slasher. This not only has great attack, but also gives 2 free points in speed. That brings us up to the maximum level of speed, and that will be very useful in the battles to come, because our next battle is with a gorgeous, giggly, multi-talented, and extremely shady lady who is actually a man and slightly pressed about it, Flea. In the first part of the battle, Flea is basically just a punching bag, but she does have the ability to inflict a number of status effects, including poison, confusion, blind, and sleep. But there's something else. There seems to be some sort of limitation to the number of status effects you can be inflicted with. I don't completely understand the details, and please enlighten me in the comments if you do. Basically, the poison status seems to prevent most of her other status effects from being inflicted, except sleep, and the damage from it is minimal, so I'm not too worried about it. And there's yet another thing. With 2 characters dead, Flea's most annoying attack, which charms Goku into attacking the entire party for big damage, simply doesn't work. And because of these quirks, I'm able to take him out pretty quickly, gaining a juicy magic tab. Chrono Trigger litters these throughout the game's landscape, and they provide permanent increases to statistics, strength, speed, or magic. And while I usually spread out the bonuses to different characters to strengthen their best qualities, that doesn't make sense in a run like this. In this challenge, every single one goes to Goku, making him an all-around amazing character. And speaking of all-round, we next fight against Ozzy, who has encased himself in a big round white barrier. By hitting the cranks around him, though, we can drop him into the room below, destroying his barrier and allowing us to move on to the purple-haired menace himself, Magus. And this battle definitely wasn't meant to be fought solo. In his first phase, Magus randomly chooses a weakness out of the 4 elements and then casts a spell of that element. And if you attack him, it changes. So if he chooses a thunder weakness, I can damage him with magic. If his weakness is anything else, though, I'm stuck with piddly physical attacks. So if things go badly, I could end up running out of healing items and be up the creek without a paddle. But while it's slow, the damage on Magus eventually adds up, and I'm able to take him into phase 2. Magus trades defense for offense, letting down his physical defenses and prepping a vicious dark matter attack. This would do a ton of damage, but I have a secret weapon, barriers. I collected a few of these in battles earlier. The barrier status markedly decreases magic damage, but it does wear off eventually, so I have to be careful and reuse a barrier item when it wears off. And when Magus casts dark matter, it comes nowhere close to one-shotting Goku. I use the rest of my magic points on spin cut, and then I lay into Magus with physical attacks, but unfortunately my barrier wears off before the second dark matter, and I survive. It's not too bad. And with great patience, Magus goes down, opening a time gate and hurling us back to 65 million BC. The Namek are out of control, and Videl hopes to stop them once and for all. So we acquire some Dactyls, ride to the Reptite Lair, and face off against Nizbel 2. Much like his predecessor, this dinosaur is weakened by lightning attacks. However, unlike the last bout, his defense increases each time he's attacked. However, all defense losses and gains are cumulative. That means that I can hit him a bunch of times with lightning and then attack for extra damage. And granted, like his predecessor, he can also discharge electricity. But unlike Nizbel 1, his electric attack doesn't raise his defense again. So with persistence and perseverance, Goku is able to take him down. And we have one more dinosaur to dismantle. Well, actually 2. Namely Azela and the dinosaur Doggo, the Black Tyrano. In the first part of the battle, the goal is to beat Azela, who can heal the Black Doggo. He's weak against lightning, but wait a minute, what is Azela's gender? I don't know. Whatever. He's weak against lightning and he has pretty weak attacks, so it's very easy to take him down. But once he dies, the Black Tyrano lowers its defense and starts a countdown. And after that countdown, he'll cast a strong fire breath attack. However, I kept Goku equipped with the Ruby Vest, so it does very little damage. Once per cycle, though, it does use a draining bitey attack, which does over 200 damage. But I can easily heal that off before it starts the next fire breath cycle. And while the Tyranno still has pretty high defenses, it takes about 15 minutes to whittle him down to dragon dust. And what follows is literally my favorite scene in Chrono Trigger. When we were in the future, we saw Lavos destroy the world in 1999 AD, but we had no idea what Lavos was, where it came from, or how it came to be so powerful. But while 2 out of 3 of those questions will remain unanswered for now, we do get an answer to one of them. Because here in 65 million BC, a giant ball of fire careens through the atmosphere, creating a giant crater and presumably wiping out all the dinosaurs. And wouldn't you know it, paleontologists in our world believe that the dinosaurs went extinct exactly 65 million years ago. Chrono Trigger unites its time travel fantasy with real events from our Earth's past, and that provides incredible immersion. yet another reason that this is my favorite game of all time. But let's head back to Goku's journey, because the crashdown of Lavos creates a new time gate, and it leads to 12,000 BC and the Kingdom of Zeal, a society that has mobilized the power of Lavos to create magic and suspend itself miles above the earth. Joyfully, this is the first time that full tonics are available. They restore 500 HP, and this is a huge improvement from mid tonics. I also give the 6th new battle a try. I mentioned before that news either bring down HP to 1 or deal 1 damage, and in this battle it's half and half. So while I would love to get the full 120 tech points from this battle, it's pretty much impossible to win with only Goku, so I give up after just 1 try and I add 1 to my fail counter. So after convening with a smaller purple-haired menace and his sister, we charge up our pendant in the Mammon machine and burst into the Queen's chambers. There I fight the Golem, and in the interest of time, I elect to lose this battle. Regardless of the outcome, the game progresses and my characters get captured. But who should come to our rescue but Scala? But a mysterious purple-haired prophet instructs her to send us back where we came from and seal the time gate behind us. And to return to Zeal, we need an alternate way to get to 12,000 BC. With the time gate sealed, we head back to the future. Our destination lies on the southern island, but to get there, we have to trek through the sewers. And there we encounter Crawley. And Crawley isn't terrible, but he does have the ability to reduce a character's HP to 1. But there's only one of him, so I'm able to heal off his attacks and relatively quickly dispatch him. And on emerging and heading into the next dome, we get one of my favorite vehicles in any RPG, the Epoch, and I call it Nimbus. Also, I decided at this point in the stream to show off some Pokemon cards, because I love them. And then I grabbed the blue, white, and black males in the present. I wasn't sure though how to get the red male from inside Guardia Palace. Because I escaped jail, showing up at the palace causes the guards to kick me out. So for now, I proceed without it, and that will definitely cause some suffering later. I also head back to Medina in the present, and I head to the pyramid. Here, I can choose one of the 2 pieces of equipment available. I can get the Swallow, which has +3 speed and an increased critical attack rate, or the Safe Helm, that reduces physical damage by 1/3. And I elect to get the Safe Helm. I'll get a much better sword later, and then it's time to head back to Zeal, or more specifically, the Muggle Motel on the ground below it. And there, we find a trio of beasts that will actually be quite challenging. The 2 bulls and their impish rider have a number of ways to make my life miserable. First, the imp can heal the entire enemy party, lengthening the battle. He can also cast Sleep on Goku, which proves to be rather annoying. He can also hit the Moo-Moos with rocks. Not only is that unkind, but it also stimulates a nasty counterattack. Fortunately though, I've equipped my Safe Helm so the damage isn't too bad. I focus on attacking the blue beast first for no reason whatsoever, and I'm able to spin cut him to death. I head for the red Moo-Moo next, and he too falls victim to my physical attacks. And with his allies gone, the imp, like a coward, frees, and we're able to head up to Mount Woe. And this leads us to one of the most difficult battles in a vanilla game and a huge roadblock in this run, Giga Gaia. The main issue with this boss battle is its hands. It uses 2 attacks in rapid succession: Dark Plasma, which I can absorb with my Shadow Mail, and Double Hand Blaster, which does more than half my health and damage, and therefore presents a big problem. Because sometimes he can use Double Hand Blaster, a fire spell, twice in a row in quick succession. Had I gotten the Red Mail, I could absorb this attack, but I guess we have to do this without it. However, if I can destroy both hands, both attacks will stop. So I use my Lightning 2 attack in an attempt to take out both simultaneously. This is doubly important since the left hand can heal the main body, prolonging this fight. I manage to take out both hands and get some physical attacks in, but the main body revives the hands, albeit with half health. So that means I'm effectively starting the battle from square one, or square 1.5 if you will. And unfortunately, I get behind on my healing and Giga Gaia takes out Goku with a double hand blaster. But fortunately, I picked up an amazing item earlier, the Silver Earring. This item will increase my HP by 25%, greatly improving my survivability in this battle. With this item, I can take 2 double hand blasters in a row with no issue. I once again take out both hands, and then I lay into the main body with Spin Cut and some more physical attacks. It revives the hands, and I rinse and repeat, and with persistence, Giga Gaia is slashed to death once and for all. And as a celebration, I show off Aurora's Bum Bum and rejoice. And defeating Giga Gaia releases Melchior, drops the Mount of Woe into the ocean, opens up the portals to Zeal, and causes Dalton to kidnap Scala, which means we next need to fight him. In this fight, Dalton only has one attack, Iron Orb. This attack will halve your HP. However, he has one other trick up his sleeve, and that happens at the very end of the battle. When he's dead, he'll cast Belch. This does a good deal of damage to the entire party and casts the poison status. However, I heal up before it comes out, meaning it's not able to take me out. And we barrel through to the Ocean Palace. I run from every battle possible to preserve MP, and I head into the battle with the Golem twins. And now that I have the white mail, this battle is completely trivialized. Using Lightning 2 causes the Golems to only use lightning attacks, which I absorb, meaning they soon go down and we head into the Hall of the Mammon Machine. And because of our rebellion, Queen Zeal summons Lavos. This monstrosity immediately takes out our team, along with Goku. And in response, Goku attacks Lavos, but Shelly is too powerful and destroys him. For real this time, not just RPG destroys, he's dead. And that means it's impossible to beat Chrono Trigger with only Crono, and this challenge is As you know if you've watched my previous videos, we don't give up just because one of our characters is dead. However, we do have to get him back. But before we can do that, we're captured by the formidable keeper of golems, Dalton. He takes away my party's equipment, but fortunately we have Videl in our party, and she needs not a shred of equipment to fight. So we take a ride on a blackboard, reclaim our stolen goods, and find ourselves face to face with yet another golem, the Golem Boss. And this monster is scared of heights. I empathize. I'm pretty sure I'm getting old. Anyway, we then have to fight Dalton again. And Dalton doesn't do much, though he does do a little bit more than last time. As before, he can reduce my HP by half as a counterattack, but he can also throw some balls at us, which I normally don't mind. I'm an expert in handling balls. However, under the circumstances, it seems quite rude. But the battle is on a timer, and Dalton accidentally sucks himself into a portal, yielding our improved Nimbus. It has wings now. Thanks, Dalton. We head to the peak to reminisce about a simpler time, and who should we find but Magus? And since he was so nice as to try to kill us, exile us from the kingdom of Zeal, and jettison us 65 million years into the past, we invite him to join our party. RPGs make no sense, but anyway, we call him Vegeta. And with Vegeta in tow, we can now find the Dragon Balls and revive Goku. And by Dragon Balls, I mean the Time Egg. And by Goku, I mean Crono. But you knew that, because you're smart. But even with all the Dragon Balls, we still need a clone of Goku, which we get from Norstein Beckler's lab, which means it's time to head up to Death Peak. We have a quick chat with Balthazar, and we make the trek up, dodging wind, fighting off lava spawn, and enjoying the solar eclipse. By the way, I went to Cleveland for the solar eclipse this year, and it was life-changing. Like, I might become an eclipse chaser. I will see you in North Dakota in 2045. Anyway, we head back in time, we replace Goku with his clone, and finally, we have our Super Saiyan back. Before we head on to the final battle, I have some business to attend to. While the real Goku fights using only his fists and spiritual energy, our version uses a sword and could probably use some more armor. And that means our first destination is the cave where the rainbow shell is stored. But before we can claim our prize, we have to face off against another giant doggo, the Rust Tyrano. And this adorable pooch has a special power. He can breathe extremely powerful fire. Like, actually really powerful this time. The first time I fight him, I'm woefully unprepared. He brings on the heat, and I die. It's hard for me to be angry though, because look at his cute little face. On my second try, I re-equip my silver earrings so I can survive the big fire, which I do. But unfortunately, I then get demolished by Big Doggo's draining bite attack because he uses it twice in a row. And he's looking a little less cute now. Try number 3, I learn the pattern a little better, but not better enough because I once again become dog food. Okay, now he's looking much less cute. But try number 4, I finally get good. I take enough time to heal between the big bite attacks and I survive both. But there's a problem. Each time Doggo uses his fire attack, it powers up. So I do survive the second one, but the third one-shots me by a pretty broad margin. Okay, maybe I'll be a dog person again after I finish. But as usual, my chat saves me here. I wasn't able to get the red mail from the castle earlier, but I can now. I can enter the castle in the present as long as I bring 18. You know, because she lives there. So now we finally have the savior of our run, the red mail. And before try number 5, I took a brief break to show off my adorable kitty again. Look at her. But then it's time to fight the adorable doggy. And with the red mail, doggy's fire attacks now heal me instead of hurting. That makes this battle a piece of cake. So with that, that, we obtain the Rainbow Shell. It gets stored in the castle, and we'll come back in 400 years to see how it's doing. But before that, I need another tool to extract the most out of it, the Sunstone. And with the red mail, the battle with the sun is a complete nothing burger. We absorb all of its attacks, wreck some ball, grab the celestial rock, drop it in the past to recharge it, recover it from a thieving mare, and then head back to the castle. But unfortunately, the king has been framed for the Rainbow Shell's disappearance, and the culprit is none other than Yakra the 13th. And while I would love to tell you that this battle was hard so I could extend the video and gain more ad revenue, it was not. It was an easy battle. And so, we obtained the best equipment in the game for Goku, the Rainbow Sword and the Prism Helm. The Rainbow Sword has a huge attack stat and has a 70% chance of performing a critical strike. And the Prism Helm is even more broken. It not only gives an extra 9 magic defense, but more importantly, it grants immunity to status effects, which will be incredibly important. Because now it's time to fight Lavos. The first phase of Lavos is torture, absolute torture. Not because it's hard, but because there's a forced refight against a bunch of old bosses, and it takes forever. The Dragon Tank, the Food Bot, the Heckran, Zombor, Masamune, Nizbel, Magus, Big Doggo, Azela, and even Giga Gaia. They all get taken down. It just takes forever. But finally, Lavos reveals its true form, the form that killed Goku before he was revived. His fiery rain is now quite survivable, and his chaotic zone can't inflict confusion because of my Prism Helm. His needle spin is good at best, and all of that can be healed off with a full tonic. And with time, I destroy Lavos' mouth and we head into its shell. I head back to Grounded Zeal to grab an Aeon Mail and refill my full tonic stash, and remind you that if you like this video, you should join the Tantacles Discord community. It's really fun there. And if you're loving this video, please consider becoming one of my channel members, the Tantacles. For a small fee, you'll get early access to my videos and my undying gratitude. But if none of that really matters to you, the fact that you've made it this far in the video means the world to me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Well, back to the big guy. He opens with his laser beam Doors of Destruction attack, and it does almost 1200 damage to Crono. The battle is literally impossible in our current state, but I do have some other avenues to explore. I head back to 600 AD to explore the ruins. After getting some tools for repairmen, I fight my way through the monsters here, dying a couple of times along the way. And then I touch a treasure chest on the right side of the ruins. So I return to the future, and that chest's contents, the Nova armor, are powered up to the Moon armor, which provides another 10 of magic defense. And with the gold earring, Goku has 937 HP as well. And that means it's time to try again. This time, his first attack leaves me with 81 HP, just barely alive. I use Lightning 2 to attack all 3 parts of the core at once, and after the second laser attack, the central core opens. This activates several other attacks, including this nameless fiery white triangle attack, which takes out Goku again. So I decide it's time to grind for the first time in this run, and therefore I head to Genodome. There, I do some grinding on the conveyor belt, and Goku rises to level 37, now with 999 HP and a good deal more magic defense. Now, the laser attack leaves him with 285 HP, which represents a pretty safe chunk. I take the same strategy, but before it uses the lasers a second time, I use a barrier item on Goku. This makes the lasers do under 500 damage, which is much more manageable. And when the body activates, the barrier also saves me from the white triangle attack. The first time, anyway. I ultimately get overwhelmed and I die. And I try one more time. This time, I focus down the right arm with the Confuse Tech, and while it's in the process of being revived, the left arm casts the Protective Seal spell. And that's a huge problem, because now I'm vulnerable to status effects, in particular Confusion, which immediately hits. And then after that, Stop, which means Lavos can now get off a couple of pot shots on me. So it's looking like to beat this boss, a few things need to happen. And the first thing that needs to happen is that Goku needs to learn Luminaire. And to learn it, I do a bit of a grind offline. He learns Luminaire at level 43. And while grinding in a Genodome, the enemies drop a good deal of barrier and shield items. I also switch around my equipment. Specifically, I give Goku the Prism specs. These will maximize his damage potential, and now that he has more health, this is the best option, because the third thing that needs to happen is that both arms need to die at the same time. This is the only way to prevent them from using the Protective Seal attack. The left arm has 12,000 HP, and the right arm has 8,000. So after using a barrier and a shield, I use 2 confused attacks against the left arm. Then I use Luminaire 4 times to destroy both arms at the same time. And then I go to town on on the core, and it doesn't even have time to revive the arms once. But it's not over, because now we have to fight the true final boss of this challenge, which for once is actually the final boss of this challenge, Lavos' true core. And after using a barrier and a shield, using a confuse tech on that left bit is my first priority, because that will defeat the bit with just one attack. That means I can go to town on the true core, and the true core will revive the left bit. So if I don't kill the left bit right away, it too will use the protective seal spell. But this ends up not being a problem. Fortunately, the first time I'm revived, I'm able to take it out right away. And the second time too. And the third time too. Because once the core's HP gets low, the center bit gets a wee bit protective and starts lashing out with physical attacks. And once my shield is worn off, Goku dies, and I need to start over. But I know I can do it. So I fight through the outer core, 2 confuse attacks, 4 luminaires, the arm's dead, I destroy the body, and we're on to the central core. But this time, I'm ready. I buff Goku with a barrier and a shield, and then I take out the left bit with a confuse. But then the game changes. Rather than focusing exclusively on the true core, I use Luminaire, blasting both with continuous damage. The left bit too gets revived, I get hit with a triple tech, I kill it with confuse, and start the cycle anew. And a third time. And on that third time, my first Luminaire takes down the central bit. That means it's open season on the true core. I hit it with 1 confuse, 2 confuse, 3, a 4th, but then the core revives the other 2. But I immediately take down the left bit again and restore my barrier and shield. And that's well timed, since the central bit then uses Grand Stone, the most powerful attack in the game. But then I'm free to strike. I use 1 Luminaire and then a second, and I know I have to be close. The left bit is revived again, I kill it, and then I hit it with 1 Luminaire. Not enough. And then a physical attack, and the core finally dies. The Millennial Fair reaches its conclusion, we send our companions back into their respective eras, and I sob as I watch the final credits. I've beaten Chrono Trigger with only Crono, and you should watch some RPG challenge runs if you haven't already. Click this playlist right here. Thanks for watching me beat the best game of all time with only Crono.